Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Dynamics Corner. What is local LLMs? DeepSeek 5.4? I'm your co-host Kris.
And this is Brad. This episode was recorded on February 20th, 2025. Kris. Local language models. Local large language models? Is that
Local
what that
large.
means?
Yes.
This was another mind-blowing conversation. In this conversation, we learned about large language models, running large language models locally, what are all of these models, and how we can communicate with these models with Business Central. With us today, we had the opportunity to learn about many things AI with Stefano Demiliani.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good morning for me. Good morning for me.
Yes.
Good night for you. Good afternoon for you.
It feels like
what do you
nighttime here, but it's early morning.
It
early
always
morning.
feels like nighttime here.
I always
Yeah.
forgot the time zone. Yes, you are early morning.
Well, you are 6 hours ahead of me,
Okay.
and then 9 hours ahead of Kris.
Okay.
So-
Perfect.
So, yeah, it is. It's perfect. It's perfect for me because it's not nighttime.
Ah.
It's perfect for you because it's late.
Yeah, exactly.
It's perfect for Kris because it's very early. So it's
This
perfect
is
for
very
everybody.
early. It's
Yes.
normal that I have an uploading message on top.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It collects the local audio and video
Ah.
so that we have some high quality
Perfect.
files to put together to make you sound amazing. But you already sound amazing.
No, not too much. You are amazing with your podcast.
No,
Thank you.
We're only amazing because of individuals like you. And what's the greeting in Italy? It's not ciao. It's, how do you say? Usually we'll say good morning, hello.
We
how are
say ciao or no, you usually use ciao. It's the standard buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno
Okay.
is
Buongiorno.
another way.
Okay.
Ciao is
It's,
more informal.
Okay. So, and then when you say bye, do you say arrivederci or ciao again?
Arrivederci. Exactly.
See,
You speak
Kris, I
Italian
know-
perfectly.
I'm ready to go to Italy.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to go to Italy still. Still haven't made it over to Europe. It's a struggle, but hopefully
We are
this year I'll be
waiting
able to make.
For you.
Yeah, I'll be able to make one of the appearances over
One
there.
of the conferences out there.
Exactly.
Well, it's always a
We are waiting
challenge
for you in
because
one of the next European conferences.
yes, there's several coming up. It's a matter of
Yes.
trying to find the one that works out best logistically.
Yeah, I agree.
And-
That it's not always easy to balance every event that there's outside. So balance events, working, family, and so on is not easy. So
No, it's not easy. And in Europe, we spoke about before, I think casually, Europe is like the United States in the sense that, the United States is in itself is like Europe, where you have the United States as a large continent or large country,
Yeah.
and it has many states.
yeah,
In Europe,
now probably one
Europe-
more. If you join
don't even
Canada.
get me don't even get me started on that. I don't want Canada. They can keep Canada. They let's give Canada to somebody else. But we travel in the United States across states like Europeans travel across countries.
Exactly.
So it's when there's European conferences, it's a little bit easier for you to move around. I mean, I understand also for you to come over to the United States, it's a little difficult because you understand, in essence, it's a day of travel somewhere,
Yeah.
and then you have to, attend a conference or do something, then a day of travel back. So you don't usually do something like that without trying to get additional time
Absolutely.
to do
Yeah.
things.
It's
So you
easier
have
for
to
you,
coordinate
Brad,
that.
though. Because you're East Coast. If you're flying East Coast to Europe, it's a much shorter flight. Like for me, I have to cross the country
Yeah.
and
Well,
then
you can go the other way.
I
Like, we
remember
could
when
do the
I
other
was
way.
in US some years ago, from Los Angeles to moving to New York, it was about, if I remember, 4 or 5 hours of flight, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So
it's some of the flights, like you said, yeah, there's about 5 to 6 hours depending on where on the East Coast that you go. So that is just itself going one side to the other. It's a little challenging, Chris. It becomes which airport do you go to?
Yep.
And Europe is fortunate that they have a great rail system because you can go from country to country easily. And I often
public
forget that. So I see
transportation.
some of these events. I was talking with someone, they said they were recommending if I wanted to go to one of the events, we'll fly to this airport. You could probably get a direct flight. Then you can take a train easily for a few hours to get to the destination, which was much shorter when I looked at it than flying
yeah, for sure.
to an airport and having the connections.
Yeah, they do have good transportation. Ours is like a Greyhound bus, but that takes like forever to get around.
I do wish we had a better transit system. Some of the cities have great transit systems. Boston has
but you're still within
the subway,
state.
and they have some rail. Exactly, and then New York has. It used to be a good system, but now, from my understanding, it's a disaster. But
you avoid it.
There's ways that you can get around, but if you want to go from Boston to Florida, for example, you can take a train, but the train will take you a day in itself.
Yeah.
So it's challenging. It's challenging.
Exactly.
But thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I've been looking forward to speaking with you about a topic that is interesting to most people these days, even more so, I think, in the development point of view. But before we jump into it, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
A little bit about myself. My name is Stefano. I'm working mainly in the Business Central area and in the Azure area. So this is the topic that I cover in my company. I'm responsible of all the development team inside my group. My group is called Lodestar, and we are quite a large group in Italy. And I have the responsibility of managing the development part of Business Central area and the Azure area, so serverless applications and so on. Recently, as you can imagine, we have also started working on the AI stuffs, and so also I'm currently also leading it at the moment small, but I hope that we will grow team that is involved on providing also AI solutions to customers. I have a long history from in Business Central area. Previously NIV, I started in NIV, I think in version 2.1, NIV Navision, when it was Navision 2.1. Then it was acquired by Microsoft and so on. So I follow all the roadmap of this product. And now we are here. We are in the cloud. We are here. So there was lots of evolution in the product, lots of steps, and
there really was. I one day we'll have to sit down with a few people that have been working with it as long as you have and just talk about the evolution of the product from where it was back with the classic client, with the native database that they had, then when they added SQL, then when they added the role-tailored client, continue through the progression of the evolution of both the product and the language. And I said it before, originally they had 3 versions, if you recall. They had the financials version, the distribution version, and the manufacturing version. So depending on which customer type you were, you would get a specific version of Navision.
Exactly.
And
that was Navision has had a lot of evolutions in the years. I remember we started with the classic client and the native database. So this was extremely fast. So very great on that. With a lot of limitations, probably when going to big customers. And unfortunately, we started my first Navision project in my life was with a very big customer, because we decided to move to Navision an old healthcare system that we have. And we historically, in my company, we have an healthcare dedicated sector. And we have a solution previously, handmade solution based on Oracle database. In years, 2 or 3 years before the introduction of the euros, we decided to move this solution to Navision classic database because it was only possible. This solution had, I think, if I remember, 4 or 5 hundred of users, and it was a very big solution. And then we moved to SQL Server. When we moved to SQL Server from Classic, there was a lot of problem, conversion of data and something like that. So, but the solution is still live. And the curious part of that is that we are in 2025 with Business Central Online and so on, but we have also today customers that are using the old Navision converted to NAV 2009, but we have still today live customers and also big customers that are still on that platform. We are trying to convince them.
Wow.
I know of a customer as well that's using NAV 2009, and I think they have close to 400 users, and they haven't decided to make the move.
The curious part of that, what sometimes makes me crazy, is that in my every day job at office, maybe during a day I need to switch from VS Code, IL language and so on to open classic line in NIV 2009 to fix something or to add something. So also today we need to switch from totally different.
Wow.
It is interesting to see the difference. And as you had mentioned, you get used to working with AL and VS Code and all the tools that you have within VS Code, all the things that were added. And you go back to 2009, you see what we really had to do code. Even when they added the separation for functions, it was a big deal for me that they had the gray bar where you could separate between the functions, which was, and even find reference was good. Also, I didn't get a chance to speak with you in person. I know we've communicated with text and written, but congratulations on the book that you and Dulio put out. It's a great book. Okay. I did pick it up. I have it.
We are working quite a lot on that, so we hope that
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
We receive a lot of positive feedback from the community.
Very useful.
And, it's very useful. It is on my shelf.
I have it right behind me.
yes. So it's I have it reference as well. No, so thank you for doing that and creating that, and congratulations on putting together something so informative for users. But now let's jump into this LLM stuff.
Yeah,
because you have been doing some things that I don't know if I can say I understand or don't understand, but anytime I see something that you post, you're always doing something new with local language, large language models, but you're also doing a lot locally.
Exactly.
I see. So you're installing and setting up AI or language models on your computer.
Yes.
Your local machine. Wow.
Exactly. What we have, I think that everyone that is following technology information today on socials or on internet or something like that, you everywhere read about AI. AI is a topic that is absolutely exploding, and there are.
I don't think you can go 5 minutes without hearing
exactly.
it. I really don't.
Except
I don't
when you're
think,
sleeping.
I think even maybe what you're dreaming about. If you're listening to the news, if you're having a conversation with someone at work, if you're reading something online, I think you can't go 5 minutes unless you, like you had mentioned, Kris, unless you're sleeping or you just are sitting by yourself in the woods somewhere without hearing AI.
And I totally agree. And the history about these stuff that I'm doing today is, I think that the majority of us knows that the big AI vendors like OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, something like that. So these are now also Twitter or X, sorry, not Twitter, X.
Grok.
Yellow has recently released Grok 3 that is extremely powerful. So the concept that we embraced some years ago is that we start providing AI solutions by using standard AI model. So Azure OpenAI was our first choice. And this was absolutely easy to do. Just go on Azure, set up a model, deploy a model, and then you can use your model in Business Central or in different applications you want to use. We have some problems on that. So on some scenarios, and problems of that is that sometimes when it's not easy to provide and convince customer that an AI solution is something that can be a winning choice for them. So you need to demonstrate something, and some customers also are not so prone to leave your data accessible to internet, or maybe have some devices, particular devices. We have, for example, scenarios in manufacturers where they cannot access internet, or don't want to access internet for different reasons, or cannot access the browser, for example. This was another limitation. No browser as the way to interact. And so for that reason, this was one of the reasons that turned me the light to start exploring something different. And the second reason for that was that there are a lot of scenarios, at least in my experience, a lot of scenarios where AI can be useful. But for these scenarios, is not absolutely needed the full power of a giant LLM. For example, why I need to pay for, I don't know, GPT-4a when I only need small stuffs, or I only need to do function calling or something like that. Sometimes AI for a big company can be costly for probably nothing, and it's not absolutely not always choosing the best performance LLM is gives an advantage to the final customer. So with these reasons, I start exploring a new world that is the open source LLMs, because it's probably a word that is not so spreaded in everywhere, but the AI world is also full of open source LLMs, and these open source LLMs are also provided by big vendors like Microsoft is providing open source LLM, Google is providing open source LLM, Meta, Llama, and more, and so DeepSeek is also provided as an open LLM. These LLM are in many scenarios absolutely powerful, can be executed offline, and sometimes can give the same result to the customers as using one of the full version that you have available in OpenAI or Azure OpenAI or X or something like that, giving absolutely the same results, but without going to internet, without totally private, and so on. So that's why
Interesting.
Start exploring this world.
My mind is full of questions. So you're working with open source LLMs to run AI locally, or the language models locally, versus running them online. I have several questions with that. One, we'll get to how do you set all that up, but we'll talk about that after. How do you determine the differences between the models that you choose to use? Which and you had mentioned some of the big names that we hear of outside of the open source ones, with Microsoft, with Google, with Meta, and now XAI. How do you know which model to use, or what's the difference between the models? Because I see like the GPT-4o, Grok 3, Grok 2, Claude Sonnet 3.5. I see all these different language models, and how do you know what the difference is between them, or is it just all the same and it's a different name based upon who creates it?
Yeah.
Are they created equal?
No, if I can try to share a screen if possible, so that we can talk with
Yes.
That would be wonderful.
we can talk. Probably now it works.
Oh, very cool.
Excellent.
I'm excited about this.
I'm excited. That's some cool stuff on your screen with graphs moving.
And you're a Mac user.
No, just, but now it's working. Sorry for the problem, but I don't know why.
No one will know.
So we can see your screen. You have a window open with some graphs and some things moving.
Yes. What I will start first showing is this window. So Hugging Face. Hugging Face is one of the main, probably one of the main portals and platforms where open source LLMs are distributed from all the different vendors. And so every vendor that wants to distribute an AI model today in the open source world release on Hugging Face. And on Hugging Face, you can see, if you click on models, you can see that here there are tons of models deployed here. Some are models completely open source models, like and not very known models, like as you can see, a lot of names that are not so famous. But there are models that instead are extremely famous, and as they have also their counterpart in that is not open source and is released as a paid service. Like, for example, probably one of the most famous today is DeepSeek. DeepSeek is a very powerful model. DeepSeek has the full DeepSeek model is a big model with 671 billions of parameters. So it's a very extreme large model that in order to be executed locally requires more than 400 gigabytes of RAM. So it's a model that,
so you need 400 gig of RAM to run this locally?
Run DeepSeek full.
Wow.
See, that was one of my questions.
The hardware requirements.
Well, you have a large model that is run online, such as DeepSeek and the ones that we had mentioned. That was the first question I had, is if you want to run these locally, what are the requirements that you have to run them locally? Because I don't know of many people that have a 400 gig of RAM computer.
No, it's something that you cannot execute in a local machine. But here, for open source model, there's an important concept to understand. That is called quantization. So quantization is, in simple terms, is a technique that an LLM vendor can use to reduce the computational and memory cost requirements of a model. So try to explain that in simple terms is like starting from a full powered LLM. So an LLM that is provided by the vendor cannot be executed online because it requires a data center in order to be executed. These models pass through a process that reduces the precision of the model, so can reduce the floating point representation of that models. So it's something like compressing that model and create from that model a smallest model with the same capacity and but with less precisions. That's the idea. So you start from a giant from that giant you can detach smaller children of that giant with a bit of a smaller precision. But smaller precision doesn't mean precision in terms of responses or in terms of capacity. It's something like reducing the neural network inside that model. So if you can see here, for example, without going into mathematical concept, because quantization is honestly a mathematical concept. If you can see here, this is the full DeepSeek model. 671 billions of parameters. These models cannot be executed offline unless you have a cluster of machines, because it requires not less than 400 gigabytes of RAMs and GPUs in order to be executed online. So I cannot execute it offline, sorry, and probably you cannot execute it offline in your machines, and probably also many companies,
unless you got a data center there, Brad, somewhere.
Their machines.
It's under my desk.
This is why these models are provided as services from the cloud, so you can execute, activate a subscription to DeepSeek or deploy DeepSeek, or today also on Azure is available. On Azure AI Foundry, you can deploy the full DeepSeek and you can use as services. But here you can see that also there are available the distilled models, and the distilled models are a reduced version of DeepSeek in this case. So models that are passed through a process called quantizations, and through a second process, in this case from the case of DeepSeek, called distillations. And distillation has as you can see here, is another technique that is used in open source AI. So the distillation is a machine learning technique that involves transferring knowledge from a large model to a smaller one in order to create a model that has the same features and knowledge of the big, but of the big, in this case DeepSeek, transferred to a smaller model. So in this case, you can see that here DeepSeek is providing several distillation of DeepSeek. So coming from these models, these are the base model that is used to DeepSeek has trained this model in order to have a new model called with these names.
That has all the power. Entire model. Okay.
So with this process, just to take it back, so in the cloud they have a model that has billions of parameters, as you had mentioned. They go through a distillation process and they reduce it so that it can run locally on a reasonable machine.
Exactly.
You said that the precision is off. Is there a difference in the results? What's the difference with them reducing it versus running it in the cloud? Is it speed in response? Is it accuracy? I don't even want to use the word accurate.
The main difference that you can experience on some scenarios is probably accuracy, because the full model has obviously more parameters, so accuracy is sometimes, at least not always, but for some tasks accuracy is probably better. If you have follow some of posts that I've done, for example, some tests on auto-generating JavaScript complex scripts for creating animations or something like that. And for example, these tasks, probably the full model is more accurate. With the distilled model, so the local model is a bit less accurate. You need to more turn up the prompt in order to have the same result. But here, for example, for speaking, for interaction with Business Central, for example, or for creating agents or something like that, these models are absolutely comparable to the online model, with the advantage that you don't pay nothing, that you can deploy it offline with also a reasonable amount of RAM. It depends of the number of parameters that the model have. So this number that appears here is the number of parameters that this model has. So for example, this is 70 billion parameters. This is 32 billion parameters. This, for example, is the model that I used and I still using for my tests with the DeepSeek.
Which model of DeepSeek are you using for your tests? What's
32
the name?
billion
parameters. Is a distillation of DeepSeek using 32 billion parameters, and this works absolutely great.
But how do you tell which, like, if you look at the 32 billion parameters, like you're running it clearly on a MacBook.
Yes.
And how do you know if your MacBook will handle that?
To know if the local machine can handle that, you can the number of parameters. There's a calculation that gives you the rough estimate of gigabytes of RAM that you can use in order to run these parameters. Very, very rough number is if you multiply this number by 1.5, for example, is usually a large estimate of the number of gigabytes that you need to run.
So you multiply the number of parameters by 1.5, or which number?
Exactly. This gives you about the number of gigabytes that this 1.2, 1.5, 1.5 if you want to stay large. This is the number of gigabytes required to efficiently run this model locally. So, for example, this requires to have at least 40 gigabytes of RAM to run locally. If you have strict requirements, so I don't know, if you have, for example, a local machine with 16 gigabytes of RAM, probably this is the model to use.
So if you have 32 billion parameters, you multiply that by 1.5 roughly in the cell, again, 1.2, 1.5. So that's where you get the 40. So it's not 32 billion times 1.5. It's 32. So it's the number of billions. Okay. To be clear.
There's a more precise number, so a more precise calculation that compares not only the parameters, but also other set of parameters. But in my experience, when I have to quickly evaluate if I can use this model online or offline or not, taking into consideration the resources that I have, I use this estimate. So this multiply per 1.2, something like that, 1.5 if I want to stay large, gives me if this model is able to run on my machine or not.
16 gigs, 16, 17 gigs for that one.
Can also be run on iPhones.
You're taking me to a whole different world here. So you can run this on the but I just want to take it back up a notch before we get my mind has this whole list of questions.
Amazing.
So we have a large language model that's in the cloud that went through a distillation process to now run locally, where there's different models or mini models, I guess you could say, or distilled models that have different parameters, where you had mentioned in some cases what you may lose is some accuracy. In some cases, not always.
Not always.
Absolutely. What is now? I hear about language models being trained constantly with information on the internet or trained by different sources. With this being run locally, does it have all of that information? And what happens if the model gets updated is that the whole point of having different model versions? Is it has a different set of data? Or because if we
different set of parameters.
let's just say we index the internet for a website. So let's just say we index Microsoft Learn today and have a model that's focused on Microsoft Learn. They constantly add documents. I now have a local copy of DeepSeek that use that Learn source. How do I get updated information?
Exactly. One of the main limitation of the local LLMs is that they are periodically refreshed. So it's local. When you have downloaded a local LLM, like for example here in my machine, I have this set of local LLMs. Some from Microsoft, some from Llama and DeepSeek. Let me try to do this. Local LLMs are downloaded with the knowledge of when the vendor releases that model. So, for example, what your latest update date, and sometimes they response giving you that. For example,
October 2023
is not a recent model. It has knowledge, so he has knowledge, public knowledge of facts, internet facts, until this date. Probably now I have not updated it yet. Probably if I download a new update, you can. It's something like Docker, the technology. So you can download the model. It creates a local model, then you can pull again in order to see if there are updates of that model. So when I used this model, this is, for example, one of the most powerful, in my opinion, small language models that can run locally. So FI4 from Microsoft.
Which model is that again? Did you say?
5.4.
Microsoft FI4 is called.
Microsoft 5.4?
Yes, it's this model here. It's one of the best, in my opinion, models from Microsoft that can run fully offline. So probably the main limitation of open source and local language model are if you intend it to use as a model that knows internet. So this can be probably the scenarios where they can have the main limitations because they are created and deployed in a particular way. They know the knowledge until that particular way, and then you can download. But honestly, this is absolutely not my scenarios. So my scenario is not having a ChatGPT offline. That works perfectly because I can. Here it fails only if I know internet facts. So if I know who is the USA president, I don't know if it's able to.
So you're saying that when you download these small LLMs locally, running locally, does it not have access to the internet at all, or can you tell it to have access to the internet?
Usually the model that runs offline by default has no access to internet. You can enable access to internet, but as default it has no access to internet. So because he's trained with the knowledge when the vendor released
at that time it was published. Got
exactly.
it. Okay.
So for example, if I asking DeepSeek who is the USA president, he's giving me that. As for my last update, Joe Biden is the president because it's not
right. October 2023 is the last
online model. So, but so the question is if you want to have a reliable ChatGPT, probably an offline model sometimes can fail because you need to be sure that it was updated with the latest data coming from internet.
So that's a good point that you make. It's all a matter of, or it is a matter of how you're going to use or what you need to use for the model that you're running locally.
Right.
I want to get into this, and I hope that you publish it someday. How do I install this? But can you train it with your own data as well on a local model?
Yes.
So if I was an organization that had
security reasons,
that had policies for my employees, or I had other documents that I wanted to put into the AI so that the members of our team could use the AI to find something simple. So we may have a handbook for an employee handbook that has the policies for taking time off, for holidays, where an employee could just type to the model, what are the holidays we have?
Exactly. Here is exactly the point where these models are, in my opinion, interesting. So I think that these models are not extremely interesting if you want to have a ChatGPT offline, or at least if you want to have a ChatGPT offline, there are scenarios where they are extremely interesting. For example, if I need to ask something for coding, they can give me an answer without going to internet. So I can also use it on an airplane or everywhere I want. Also from an iPhone, for example, I can use these models. But the second scenario is with company data. And here is where I've spent my last months on, and also we have live projects on that, using these models, because you can use these models fully locally without paying nothing and without having access to internet for doing business stuffs. So for example, at least in my case, I don't have customers that ask me to provide an AI solution for going to internet and asking everything they want, because there are copilots, there's ChatGPT for that. All customers that are asking us AI solutions wants AI solution that works with their business. So they want to have AI solutions that are able to talk with Business Central, AI solutions that are able to talk with their documents or reasoning with data coming from their corporate data and something like that. So these are the AI solutions that are useful for that customer. So business solution, not a general chat. So here an offline model is great on that, because you can use function calling, you can use every of the feature that you have in one of the online models, where something like GPT-4a or something like that. So, for example, this model that is very small can be executed in also 60 gigabyte machines, has the same power of GPT-4a in terms of function calling, agents creation and manipulation, something like that. And this can work completely offline. And then I can show you some example. Very, very stupid example, but just to show you something. Let me move this here. For example, I don't want to go into much details into the code. So take this only as an example, but let me reduce this. So here is for example, I have a very stupid code that uses a local model. So this is my local model running in my local, and it uses DeepSeek. So the version of DeepSeek that I previously mentioned in my local environment. And in this example here, I'm imagine that I am a Business Central company, and I want to have the possibility to pass my data to this model in order to be able to have an AI solution where I can ask something about my data. If you want to do that in using online models, for example, staying in the Microsoft family, you need to, for example, deploy, I don't know, GPT-4a for having the LLM, and then you need a vector database. So a vector models like text embedding, ADA, or something like that, because you need to convert data coming from Business Central to something that the model can understand. And for doing that, you need also to have a vector database. Microsoft has Azure AI Search for that, and this costs a lot. So this solution can cost not less than $400 per month minimum to have a full RAG solution working with Business Central data and an online model. The same result of this can also be executed totally offline. And this is a very quick, stupid example. So here I have my model running locally. So it runs on my machine. The model is DeepSeek in this case, but you can use one of the available model. I use DeepSeek here in this example because DeepSeek is a reasoning model. Now, one of the latest trends in AI is reasoning models. Reasoning models are models that before giving you the final response performs a long reasoning process. They can explain all the steps that they are used for reasoning, and then they can give you the result. And here I also use embeddings because I want to pass data. And this is, for example, one of the available embedding models, open source models. I use this because it's the smallest. And
so you have a local language model DeepSeek installed. You want to train it on your Business Central data, all local, so it doesn't go out to the internet. So exactly. You also now need to create or install install another model. What was the model you called that to process or to hold your data?
The model is the embedded model is this. I use this, but you can use different. This is
so the embedded model is used to work with your data within exactly. the language model that you're using.
Without going to all the steps, there's here I'm using I'm personally a big fan of this tool, this SDK called Microsoft Semantic Kernel. Microsoft Semantic Kernel is a SDK deployed from Microsoft that permits you to create AI solutions that are independent from the model, plus many other features. But one of the main features is that you can create, and it abstracts you the creation of the AI, your AI solution, despite the model and that you can use. So in my with this tool here, I'm creating my my service, and in this service I'm passing data. Here I put stupid data, but imagine that I pass data from the sales coming from Business Central. Yeah, I simply pass my data just to provide you an example as a list of data. So the concept is that to the memory of my AI model, I need to pass all the data that it needs to know. And this data can be the content of Business Central tables or a summarization of the Business Central tables, I don't know. Here, just to provide a very easy example, I pass a set of data. So for example, the sum of the amount of the sales for a customer in a month. And then for each customer, the same amount for each of the product category that I using. So the model now knows that he has a total amount and a total amount for this customer category, this item category. So here each data for each customer. Imagine that this can be your rough Business Central table or what you want.
Yeah, so you could pick the data that you want to load, the customer table, vendor table, customer ledger, all of the, whichever specific things that you want your model to know.
Any specific thing that I want that my model knows. That's the idea. And then I can start asking DeepSeek. So here, if for example I run this, it will not be extremely quick because here I use the biggest model. I can use for that also a small distillation. So also the 16 billion parameters is okay. But here my models has memorized all this data. And now DeepSeek is reasoning. I don't love too much the reasoning part of DeepSeek because it's long. There's a way also to avoid DeepSeek reasoning. But here I've asked in the program, I've asked the model to give me the sales amount for digital services in 2025. So the models need to go into each customer, retrieve the sales amount for that particular category and do the output. And here is you can see the reasoning. So my model is responding to me that first of all, sorry, I forgot to mention. I opened this for that reason. When you run that, I can rerun again, and you can see. When you run a local model, you will see that your GPU is going to the max because the local model first uses GPU. Then
okay.
Memory. So I will later relaunch the process. We will see that my GPU will go to the top because the model, any LLM uses GPU at max in order to perform reasoning, calculations, and so on. Then when GPU is not available, uses RAM and CPU. But first of all, it's GPU that is used. But now you can see that my model has responded. So DeepSeek has do that reasoning. Okay, I need to figure out the total sales amount for digital service, blah, blah, blah. It's explaining all its mental reasoning. So first look at Contoso. And it's retrieved that in these 2 months, Contoso has done that for digital services. Then Adatum, only 1 month. Then Cronus, and so on. Then it gives you all the explanation. Okay, now I need to sum, blah, blah, blah. And the total result is this.
So it basically, you can see what it's doing to come up with the number. When you loaded the data, you only have to load that data 1 time, correct?
Yes,
so you don't have to do it for each query or each question or each prompt. You can. So if we had a business central database, we could, in essence, in your example, load the sales. Every day we could export or import, however you phrase it, the sales information into our language model. So now it has up-to-date sales data. So anytime we run this, it will have the most accurate information.
Exactly.
Oh, that's excellent.
And as data store, so data store for these embeddings, now you can have different type of embedding. For example, Microsoft now has released the support for embeddings also in SQL Server or Azure SQL. And Azure SQL is absolutely a good choice in terms of money if you want to use also the online version, because having embeddings in Azure AI Search or in Azure SQL, Azure AI Search is very costly. Why Azure SQL is absolutely cheaper than that. But here, just to show that, here is I have asked a question to my LLM running locally about a set of data that I've done, and he has done reasoning, and he has provided me a result. So this can be useful if you want, for example, to have a service that is able to analyze your Business Central data and gives you the query according to the user question. And
I can't wait to play with this. I'm calling you later, and we're going to set this up on my machine. But
just once to show what I forgot to mention before, if I do that again, you will see. Okay, see here.
Yeah.
So during the process of reasoning, the model uses GPU at max, and if you have unless so it start consuming also the power consume of your local machine is increasing. So imagine a data center, what happens. So data center, I read the latest data. Data center in US, the consumption of energy in US, the data center, if I remember, is consumes the 13% of the energy in US, all the power that we have in data center. So what the
crazy.
main is and then
what is that you're running that shows the graph of the usage, the GPU, and so the tool that you
is called MacTop. Is this tool? Let me open it. Browse. I use this. Well, there are different. I use this. It's a open source. You can simply.
It's resource monitoring for Mac.
Yes, it's a resource monitoring. It's quite.
So you're using an open source resource monitoring tool for a Mac.
Source, absolutely.
This is
easily install with this.
Yeah.
And
so we install our language model. We can I use the word export, but we can send the data to the language model from our Business Central environment or anything else, any other data that we want to send to it.
Or any other data.
The model will learn the data, train the data. You can ask, in this case, DeepSeek a prompt. It will show you the reasoning. I like that. So you can see exactly what it's doing to come up with the calculation. And now we have the result. Exactly. So now we're doing this completely offline. So those that have questions of security of data being transmitted in the cloud somewhere or teaching a model that somebody else could potentially get the data, we eliminated that because this doesn't go out to the internet. Now that we have that language model installed locally, can we use it with Business Central itself? So Business Central with the newer versions has Copilot where we can prompt or ask questions and it will do things. Is there a way that we could use our local model within Business Central to get that information?
Every local model, in my opinion, are suitable for some types of scenarios. So Business Central, every local model, first of all, as you can see from here, so every local model is available as a local service. So it runs as a service from your local machine or your machine in your local network, and you can use with the same APIs as the online model. So if I use DeepSeek offline, it's exactly like using DeepSeek online. If I use VI4, the Microsoft offline, one of the Microsoft offline model is the same as using GPT-4a online. So in terms of API calls and so on, obviously a local model is local because it runs in your local network. So Business Central Online, calling directly a local model, you should expose this to Business Central Online. This is honestly, you can do that, not maybe directly, but with a middle layer in the Alpha that is able to from Business Central, you call something like an Azure function, and then an Azure function can call your local service. This is absolutely available, possible. The Azure function, you can expose this in a virtual network. So in order to have the security of the messages. But and this is possible. So Business Central can call a local model, but you need something in order to expose the local service to Business Central. If you want to have something like a copilot inside Business Central using a local model. Honestly, my scenario that I at the moment used in real projects are opposite. So it's a local model that need to interact with Business Central. So I need to, the scenario is I am a company that I have Business Central online, but for my AI solutions, I want to have AI solutions that runs offline. So my AI solution is offline, but needs to interact with Business Center in some ways. So, for example, we have AI solutions that two recent projects that we have done with customers is there's a customer that is working in the manufacturing industry. They want to have in the production departments, they cannot use browser, but for different reasons, and they want to have the possibility to have a chat that is able to work with Business Central data. So an example is I am in the production machine and I want to know where this item is used in my production order. I can directly open my console and typing where is this item used in my production orders, and then the local model called Business Central and can give the response.
That's helpful. So they don't have to go to Business Central, right? They just ask
exactly
local.
or something like can you set the inventory to this item to 5 pieces? Can you move the starting date of this production order to tomorrow? And we have a solution for that, fully running locally, that permits you to interact with your production orders, manufacturing, so inventory movements, and something like that, fully offline.
So the language model that you are talking about, or what you had set up, is not only learning on the Business Central data,
but
it's interacting with Business Central to where it's updating information in Business Central.
Exactly.
All locally.
Exactly. Another example that I have here in my machine that I can maybe quickly show is that we have in, not this, but that we have recently deployed in a solution is one second, is this. One second that I need to open the window. Okay. This is, for example, we have some scenarios where we need to do image recognition. And for example, in we have a customer that asks us to have the possibility to recognize if a warehouse is so he has something like this. Here no, it's not needed. He has something like this. So picture of the warehouses taken from the camera, and they want to know if the warehouse is over a certain level of fields in order to block the possibility to do pickings, so doing the putaways on that locations. So what happens in this scenario is that there are some cameras on this warehouse that takes the picture every X minutes of these warehouses. They store the camera images into a folder, in this case. And then here we have a local model, Llama Vision in this case. Llama Vision is a powerful local model, open source model that is able to do image recognition, OCR, something like that.
Offline too, right?
Offline.
I want to set something up to analyze all of my, I have like 60,000 photos that I had taken over the course of my life.
Yes,
I wonder if I could use the language model to organize them for me.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
it's possible. Yes,
I'm emailing you we're setting up a date.
Here, for example, if I launch this
you...
application, it start analyzing. I hoping to have not change the parameters, so it start analyzing the photos. Can you see here that is going to CPU is going to the max, so GPU is going to the max. because images are processed. And what happens here is that is analyzing my warehouse images. The prompt that I have under that is analyze this image, try to recognize the level of the fill level of this warehouse, gives me a JSON response. This is a JSON response with a fill level, and we store that fill level inside the beans in Business Central, so the location in Business Central. So the model is first analyzing the image locally, and then calls Business Central in order to update a field that we have in the location card.
Wow. So it'll make recommendations for you.
In order, exactly. This is a local service, or a local agent that is able to periodically analyze the image coming from the warehouse and store that data in Business Center in order to, and in Business Center we have an extension that blocks the possibility to do put away in certain locations that are filled over a certain level. So this is handled by an agent running automatically, that every time checks that camera images, analyze the images, and blocks. Another example here that we are not yet deployed, this is deployed in live environment. Another example related to that is, for example, that we are testing at the moment, is relating to object counting. So we have customer that does that.
Oh, and it
so
counts
we have customer that sells apples, and each apple must be placed into a box.
And how many apples can you fit in the box?
Exactly. And this box contains apples, and we have we are testing a local agent that scans every box of apples and returns the content.
So it takes an image, a picture, as you...
Exactly. It takes the pictures. Here, if I have... now it's just a test, but if I have this agent that every time, now you can see this is working, starts analyzing each image and gives me the count of the number of the apples that there are in this image in a JSON format that I can use in order to do actions or something like that.
Wow, that's so cool.
This is amazing.
Now, so your own local.
So as you can see here, I have got a description and a count. It's
well, the impressive thing here, besides it being local and not having to use a cloud service, which may have cost, or if you're working with sensitive data, but these are just additional practical uses of AI within a business or even a Business Central implementation, where you can easily see in your scenario where you're counting apples, where you may have had an individual have to count those before. Now you can use AI to count those, or even managing your warehouse without sending someone out to see. Now AI can analyze your warehouse.
This is an autonomous agent. It's an autonomous agent that can work when you want, and
I'm sold. Like this to me has opened up a lot of thought. Even in my house, I could use this in my house to do stuff.
Quick question on the inventory: can you use these mini LLMs to do maybe even forecasting?
Yes, you can absolutely do. There are LLMs that are good on that.
Wow.
DeepSeek, for example, is good on that.
So you can have your own local LLMs.
If you pass, obviously the LLM, as in the previous example, so the LLM needs to know the knowledge. So if you pass, for example, your I don't know, purchase order, sales order, or
item ledger entries,
something like that. If you pass that to the model is able to reason on that, and it can analyze your trends and gives you the response.
That's amazing, because
So
you know how many times where people want to do that?
this absolutely works.
There are
Yeah,
so
'cause
many.
I
There are
can't
so many
imagine.
practical uses of this with the different models. I'm speechless in a sense. I can see so many different uses of it because now we can interact with Business Central data bidirectionally. So you're getting information from a JSON in a JSON format that you can send back and update Business Central, but you can also teach it on the data.
Yeah.
And it's all local, so it's secure. If
It's
you
more,
were to
Fully local.
say that, Chris.
so it's more conversational now versus just looking at numbers and then like trying to figure out, okay, this is what's recommending. Now you can, like, I'm thinking ahead a little bit here, where you can use this tool to make the recommendation and forecast, and possibly, perhaps, you can send that information back to Business Central based on the results.
Exactly.
That's
The power
crazy
of,
now.
yeah, the power of answering, so forcing the model to not just answering in text, but answering in a structural format. You can, in the prompt, you can say to the model, I want always the response in this particular format. Is powerful because you can then extract data from the response and do actions. Like in this example, we update the bin content, we update the location card, and something like that. I have, for example, here another example that I'm currently testing. For example, in our company, we have, I think for you it's the same. We have a lot of customers, Business Central Online customers, deployed on different tenants. And sometimes when we update an app, one of our apps that we have on App Source, we have quite a large set of apps in the App Source. We would like to update those apps also to the online customers immediately, maybe because maybe it's we have a fix or something like that. And sometimes this requires minimum standard is going to each of the tenant in the admin center and update the app. Otherwise, you can use APIs for that in order to spread the apps to everywhere. But APIs are something that are not so at the end of everywhere. So our consultant, for example, are not useful to use automation APIs or something like that in order to update the apps. So here we are testing an agent for that, an AI agent. And here there's a set of AI agents that are able to talk with our consultant, asking what they want to do, and providing actions. So here, just very quickly to show, because it's a prototype at the moment. But here we have different agents. So a team of agents working together. And the team of agents is, there's what I call here is a customer support agent. That is the agent that is responsible to talk with my consultant. There's a manager that is responsible to decide if an action can be done. And there's a what I call a PowerShell developer. That is the agent that is responsible to do the actions. So just to show you something here, if I run this agent, okay, I have here a customer support agent that is talking to me. And is giving, okay, hello, blah, blah, blah. May I kindly ask if you have Business Central app that you would like to update today? If so, please provide the app ID and the tenant ID. If you would like to update all apps, so update all apps in a given tenant, please only provide the tenant ID. Okay, yeah, I can write, let me.
So you designed this agent to create,
exactly.
And you told it to create the prompt or the question to the consultant to answer.
Exactly. Here is the agent that is. I've in my prompt later I will show you is just there's simply a question. Politely ask to my agent what you want to do. I've given the instruction that if the consultant wants to update an app, he needs to provide the app ID and the tenant ID. If he wants to update all the apps in a tenant, he needs to provide the tenant ID and not the app ID. So
and you had different agents within,
yes,
like,
there are
yeah.
three agents working together here.
Wow. So that goes back to where we're having a conversation, Brad. Like, remember how it's different agents doing specific tasks. And this is a perfect example where it's calling all the different agents, say, hey, you need to work together to do this specific task.
Well, you have an agent manager, right? It is.
That is so amazing.
So you have agents that have specific functions, and then you have an agent that manages the agents and uses the specific agents.
Here is exactly like this. So here, if I put, for example, this, if I ask update app this, and I forgot to insert the tenant ID, the manager ask to the customer support told to the customer that the tenant ID must be provided. And then the customer support agent asked me, okay, thank you for providing the ID. In order to proceed with update, could you please provide the tenant ID? Because I forgot.
That's
and
so
then
crazy.
I can ask tenant ID, and I put another GUID, for example. Let me copy another GUID.
I'm so excited about this. This is a perfect showing of how agents work together.
Okay, now I provided this. The manager analyzes, okay, everything is provided. Now the PowerShell executor is called. And now there's a third agent that updates the app. Here is a call to admin center API is done via function calling, pass the tenant ID and the app ID. So here there are three agents that work together in order to make a task, where a customer support is responsible to ask what I need to do complete an action. The manager is responsible to involve each agent according to the task. And the PowerShell is for me is an agent
illustration. Perfect illustration of how what the future is going to be with different agents doing specific tasks.
This
is amazing.
I mean, we've gone through
update app without a GUID. The manager, as you can see, that is the agent, the model here in this case is able to recognize that this is not a valid GUID. So the manager is okay, customer support, told to the customer and say to him that the GUID is not correct. And here the customer support say me that please ensure that both there should be valid GUID. So here is an example of interaction between agents, and this can be useful in order to, for example, provide a user interface for consultants in order to update apps on tenants.
This is mind-numbing to me.
Wow.
I can see so many different practical use of this. So let's take it back. If somebody wanted to work with this, so let's just take a sequence of steps, which I keep telling you, I'm calling you later, and we're going to set this up on one of my, I use a Mac, I use Parallel, so I'll create a Mac VM and we'll set all this stuff up. What are the steps that someone has to go through? So the first thing is they have to determine which model they want to use, correct?
Exactly. The first is determine which model you want to use
based on your scenario.
And starting point. So first of all, let me go a step back. The first is, in my opinion, the first is, okay, if you want to run a local model, first of all, select a platform to host your local model. And there are different platforms to host local models, some more complex, some less complex. I honestly suggest using Ollama. Ollama is a great platform for hosting local models. You simply download Ollama for Windows, for Linux, for macOS. And when you have Ollama downloaded, simply Ollama has a set of models here. The same models that I previously showed, divided for vendors. For each model, there are, if a model is unique, like Microsoft FIE4, there's only this model to download, and simply write Ollama pool FIE4, and it downloads you the model locally. If you have a more complex model like DeepSeek, you can download one of the available parameter distillation of the models, starting from this, that is the big DeepSeek, the biggest available in Ollama that can be run locally, to the smallest. I've previously used this. So DeepSeek, simply run this, and your model is up to be executed into your local machine and available as a local service. If you don't want to use Ollama, there's LLM Studio, that is another available tool for running local model. LLM Studio is much more user-friendly because Ollama has no user interface. Ollama runs as a service like I have here. LLM Studio instead has a user interface that here you can chat with the model. It's something like more user-friendly. Otherwise, there are other tools like this. Llama CPP is another tool available to run local models. I don't remember where is the repo, if it's this. Yes, it's this. You can download this tool and run easily with a simple command. One on the model with using this command -m name of your model or URL of your model that you can download from here. The URL of this that you have appears here. Or you can launch a server. I honestly, all my sample that I use are using Ollama. It's easy and it's powerful. When you have the platform, you can then decide the model. How model to use? Obviously, it depends on your needs. Sometimes you need a lot of power, like DeepSeek is able to, for example, doing reasoning. So if you have something like needs to do advanced reasoning, like for example, I have to create a forecasting application, probably DeepSeek is better because it can do complex reasoning.
More parameters.
Exactly. Parameters, yes, the model of the parameters depends obviously on your local resources. So download accordingly to your local resources. So if I have, for example, I don't know, a 60 gigabyte machines, probably here is my limit. I cannot download these because otherwise it will be too slow to have a response. But these are absolutely tests that you can do. So you can download the model, try if it's too slow, go to the smallest version. And my personal experience, DeepSeek is a great model for advanced reasoning. So if you have if you require advanced reasoning, general text question or code generation, DeepSeek is good. In the way the open source family, my favorite models in absolute are this. Llama 3.3 for me is one of the models that is able to satisfy every need I have today, especially when working with Business Central. Is able to perform function calling, is able to do honestly quite everything. It's not a reasoning model, so if you require complex reasoning, DeepSeek is better, but for every other task, Llama 3.3 is great. Otherwise, my required choice is VI4 from Microsoft. That is another great open source model, honestly quite comparable to what the result that you have in GPT-4.8 in many fields. So, and these are also listed here in this order because are the most downloaded open source model.
Okay, so we take a platform, we take a model, we install it, and we're up and running basically. And then we just need.
You are up and running. Obviously, your model is up and running. You can use your model like a local chat, like I've done here. So here I have all my local models, and I can select one and start using the local model as a chat.
What are you using to connect to? Which application are you using to connect to your models?
This is another open source application called this. If you want to have a user interface, otherwise via command line, you can. Every model offers the command line interface to interact. So when you download the model starts, and then from command line you can start typing, and the model answers. If you want something more user friendly, a local user interface is required. I use this because it permits. This is an open source user interface that is able to work with local models.
What is the name of it again?
With online models.
Misty?
MSTY, right?
MSTY. Okay.
.app.
Esatto. Exactly. So you can download for the platform you want, and automatically it discovers if you have downloaded local models, and all your local models are available here. And you can also add online providers. So if you have, I don't know, if you have an account with OpenAI, an account with DeepSeek Online, and so on, you can also use the model from here.
So then you have a local desktop application.
Exactly. This I always use this because it's useful for testing. For example, if you want to test a prompt or something like that, here is nice for testing. Then instead for creating application are creating in code in my case. So I have some.
So we now have an interface to the model via command prompt or via a tool. And then as far as sending our data to it, does that vary from model to model on how to do that?
Sending data to model is not related to model, or for sending data to model you have essentially two ways. First of all, you can use the REST APIs exposed by the model itself. When you download the model is available, as I previously showed, as a service, local service. So you can use REST APIs to talk with the model, and these are possible scenarios. But in this case, you need to know the format of each or REST APIs of each model. Usually are quite the same, but you need to know the format of these models. It's always explained if you go on Hugging Face. Hugging Face is the main portal for open source models. Each model has the explanation of their APIs. I honestly never do that. That's why I previously show you my examples here. Always use the previous example that I showed. Also use abstraction tools. Like for example, here I'm using semantic kernel. Semantic kernel is an abstraction tool. So with semantic area, I don't need to take care of knowing the REST API that I need to use with GPT-4a, with DeepSeek, with OpenAI, or something like that, because it does that for me.
So you downloaded semantic kernel and you installed semantic kernel, and that interfaces with your local models.
Exactly. This is when creating advanced solutions, and you don't want to rely on REST APIs. It's a recommended approach because this solution can be easily swapped between different providers. And honestly, when I create an AI solution or an AI agent or something like that, I would like to be able to use different providers. Also, the previous example that I show, where I show a solution where three agents work together. I would like also to have the freedom to have, previously in my solution, there was three agents: the manager, the customer support, and the PowerShell executor. I can, in that solution, I can say that the PowerShell executor uses GPT-4a, while the customer support only uses GPT 3.5 because it costs less. So I can spread the model across agents also.
Mm-hmm.
And so having creating AI solution that are platform agnostic sometimes are great, because your same solution can be executed with the platform, and if I a month later I want to change the platform, I can change that easily. For example, one example was DeepSeek Online. DeepSeek Online, when it was released, was the cheapest model of the history. So it's DeepSeek costs really quite nothing. And it's very powerful. So compared, for example, to Microsoft's GPT-4a, GPT-4a costs 10,000 more for each call compared to DeepSeek. We have some solution deployed lots of months ago when DeepSeek was not available, that simply by changing the parameters and changing that parameter to DeepSeek works without changing nothing.
So that's the key then. So it's to install the model, choose the platform, install the model, semantic kernel, and then you're on your way. And then, as you had just mentioned,
you can use totally cross-platform applications.
So you're not tied to a model at that point. The semantic kernel will communicate with the model. You just tell it which model to use. So in your case, as you had mentioned, you had started with one model, a new model was released, and simply by changing which model to use, your application was still functional using the new model.
Exactly.
Oh, this is great. This is great.
Exactly. It's totally platform agnostic and permits you to...
And my favorite part is this all is running on a Mac.
And this runs on...
Yes.
I'm obviously, I love Windows, but honestly, for AI stuffs, the Mac has something more.
Yeah. No, the Macs, listen, I like Windows too, don't get me wrong, but the Macs always have something more. And I'm thankful that we can communicate with Business Central, with VS Code.
Especially for AI stuffs.
Yeah.
The Mac has lots of more power than compared to Windows. So
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, can you repeat
We're
that
best
again?
friends. We're best friends.
So, well, Stefano, you had blown my mind.
This is amazing. I just downloaded MST, by the way, just so that I can interact with and stuff.
I'm just telling you, I hope you're not going to bed soon, because I'm going to send you a text with a question asking for all these links in a meeting. So just give me a few minutes. This is amazing. You've covered so much, and you've inspired, I know, me, and I'm sure anyone listening, to see how you could utilize a local language model or AI in that sense.
There are lots of scenarios where this fits.
It fits everywhere. It's just your scenarios of the warehouse, the apples, the agents
vision.
with it's just to show that you've just in those examples that you've given us have crossed many areas how you could use AI to gain efficiency within an implementation. And I think it's wonderful. It's amazing. And I'm sort of speechless because my mind is thinking of all the applications of this.
Yes, I think it fits especially in the when talking about the term that now is a lot of a hot topic today. So the agentic AI features, because especially in the Business Central world, we are always so the most common features are I click an action on Business Central and this action calls an LLM and does something. So it's user centric. Here we are moving a step over of that. So local LLMs, in my opinion, are extremely powerful when you want to create agents that work with Business Central. So I am a company, and inside my company, I want to have offline agents that does actions or decision or something like that, also with Business Central data. So or do actions inside Business Central data, like in this example, stupid example, but they can, I think, can give the idea. So these are local applications running autonomously, and also maybe in teams, teams, not teams the application, but teams in terms of groups of
organization
agents,
teams.
Exactly. You can have multiple agents that work together in order to achieve a task.
I think it eases the minds of organizations or businesses where they may be afraid of using LLMs online and they want to maintain their data within their organization. This right here is a game changer of seeing a good example of use of local LLMs.
And it's not only the security concerns of sharing sensitive data, and I use the word sensitive meaning anything that someone feels they don't want to share with someone else. It doesn't have to be sensitive in the sense of identification if I don't want to share my sales, for example. But it's also a way to help control your cost.
Exactly.
So it's a two-factor. You have a fixed cost in a sense because you have the machine or the hardware to running it.
You need to have the right hardware, exactly.
Yes, if you have the right hardware, but that's a fixed cost in a sense outside of the electricity to power that hardware. Whereas with some of these other models, depending upon how much you use it, your cost could fluctuate or vary, where this gives you a fixed cost and you have control of the data. I don't even know what to say anymore. My mind is full of all of this. And now I have a greater appreciation for all of the things that you've been sharing and posting about local language models or running language models locally, large language models locally. See, that fourth element now.
It's not just locally in your machine. You can technically have this on Azure. It just means it's offline, right? Right. So you could put it in a virtual machine. It just means that you don't need to give it access to the online world.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Mr. Stefano, thank you. I was sold. He had me at hello, as they say.
I know that for you is evening, so having this
no, this is great. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. This was wonderful. You shared so much information to help break down what running a large language model locally entails, and also extremely valuable scenarios on how it can be applied. If anyone would like to contact you, has additional questions, or may want to learn more about large language models or see some of the other great things that you've done, what is the best way to contact you?
I'm always available on LinkedIn or on X or on Blue Sky. You can reach me directly on that social. It's probably the best, or directly from the contact of my website. It's the best way to reach me directly. I always answer to, as many of you knows, I'm always available to answer. So feel free to contact me if you have follow-ups.
Excellent. And I definitely would like to have you back on again to follow up to this, because seeing all the great things that you've been doing, I can only imagine where you'll be in a few months. So we'll have to see if we can get you on later in the year to see where you have taken some of this. Are you going to directions in North America?
Unfortunately, I will skip direction in North America this year. I was because we have I will be at the Dynamics Minds, and we are organizing the Business Central Day event in Italy with directions. We have a lot of work in order to be able to do this event. And it is extremely near to Direction NA. So my initial plan was to go with Duilio to do the session that we have done in Direction NA about large customers. This was a very appreciated session. And we would like to repeat that session to Direction NA, but unfortunately, when we started the organization of Direction Italy, unfortunately, we are forced to have a fixed date by Microsoft Italy, because they give us the headquarters for the event. And so it's extremely near to Direction NA, and for me it's not possible to be outside my company. So large.
We understand that. We ourselves run into the challenges of which conferences or which events to attend, because there are many, and as we talked about, there's some travel considerations as well.
The problem is that sometimes these events are really near each other. So when you have
you gotta make a choice.
Company that requires so sometimes my company is flexible to permit me to go a week outside for events, but 2 weeks starts becoming a big problem.
When you're doing all this great stuff, I can see that. That's okay. We'll have pizza with Duilio again. So
we will be US for sure in this year. It's a promise that I've done with Duilio. If not Direction NA, maybe the other Direction US or something like that. But
there's Days of Knowledge we'll do, and then Summit is in October, and the call for speakers opened up for that. And that's in October.
We are planning to go in one of that.
I'll be looking forward to see you in person.
Yeah, we will see.
That would be excellent. Well, sir, thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time with us, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
And for your, as always, for your great podcast and your great initiative you are doing.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Stefano.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.